My son locked us in the basement, yelling, "This house is ours now." In the dark, my husband whispered, "Quiet, they don't know about the wall." Except my husband had been dead for 3 years. I was 75 years old, standing in my own basement with my daughter-in-law's perfume still hanging in the air from when she'd shoved me down the stairs. The lock clicked above us. My heart hammered against my ribs like it was trying to escape the cage of my body. And in that moment, I swear I could hear Harold's voice as clear as the day we married. "The wall, Maggie. Always the wall." But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up to where this nightmare really started, about 5 years ago, when I still thought love was enough to keep a family together. It was a Tuesday in November when Ryan first asked for money. Not asked, really, more like expected. He'd shown up at my door with his wife Jessica and their 2 kids, Emma and Brady. The air already smelled like pine needles because I'd started decorating early that year. I always did love Christmas. Harold used to tease me about it. "Mom, we need to talk," Ryan said, not even taking off his shoes. Jessica stood behind him, her arms crossed, her face arranged in what I'd come to recognize as her concerned expression. It never reached her eyes. "Of course, honey. Come in. I just made." "Emma needs braces. $12,000. I stopped mid-sentence, my hand still on the door. 12,000? The orthodontist says her bite is severe, could cause jaw problems later. He pulled out his phone, showed me pictures of x-rays I didn't understand. "We don't have it, Mom. Jessica's student loans are crushing us, and my commission hasn't been great this quarter." I thought about the money Harold and I had saved. 43 years of work, of sacrifice, of putting away every spare dollar. We'd planned to travel, see the Grand Canyon, visit Maine in the fall. All the things we'd put off while raising Ryan. Harold died before we could do any of it. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Okay, I can help." Jessica's face softened for the first time. "Thank you, Margaret. You're saving us." That was the first 12,000. Then came Brady's private school tuition, 15,000. Then Ryan's car broke down, 8,000 for a necessary SUV because Jessica didn't feel safe in their sedan. Then the family vacation to Disney because the kids deserved memories, 9,000. Then medical bills, credit card debt, a new furnace for their house, Jessica's career coaching program, $65,000 over 5 years. I kept a journal. Every single dollar, written in my neat cursive in a leather notebook Harold had given me on our 30th anniversary. Sometimes I'd sit at the kitchen table, adding up the numbers, wondering when it would be enough, when I'd done enough to prove I was a good mother. The calls came less frequently as the money went out more regularly. Ryan stopped visiting unless he needed something. The grandkids forgot my birthday. Jessica's texts became transactional. "Emma's camp is $2,400. Can you Venmo by Friday?" But I told myself it was fine. Family helps family. That's what Harold would have wanted. Except Harold had always been careful about money in a way that used to frustrate me. He'd check receipts twice, keep cash hidden in strange places, mutter about being prepared. I thought it was paranoia from growing up poor during the Depression years, watching his parents lose everything. Now, standing in my basement in the dark, I was starting to understand. The week before Thanksgiving, I decorated the whole house myself. Ryan had promised to come help, but he canceled last minute, something about Brady's soccer tournament. So I'd climbed the ladder alone, hanging lights along the porch railing, arranging my ceramic Christmas village on the mantel, putting up the tree Harold and I had bought together in 1987. It leaned slightly to the left, always had, but I loved it. The house looked beautiful, all lit up, warm, inviting, like a home should be. Ryan showed up 3 days before Thanksgiving, unannounced. I was making pie crust, my hands covered in flour, when he walked in without knocking. He had papers in his hand and an expression I'd never seen before. Cold, calculated. "Mom, we need to talk about your living situation." I wiped my hands on my apron. "My living situation? Ryan, I'm fine. I'm healthy. I can take care of." This house is too big for one person. You're 75. What if you fall? What if something happens and no one finds you for days? My stomach dropped. I have my medical alert. I have neighbors. Mrs. Chen checks on me every. It's not enough. He set the papers on my kitchen table, right on top of my recipe cards. Jessica and I have been talking. We think it's time you moved into a senior community, somewhere with staff, activities, people your own age. I don't want to move. This is my home, your father and I. Dad's been gone 3 years, Mom. His voice was sharp, impatient, like I was a child who didn't understand simple concepts. You're living in the past. This house is just going to keep deteriorating, and you can't maintain it. The property taxes alone are ridiculous. I felt something shift inside me, a small crack in the foundation of what I'd believed about my son. What are these papers? Just some information about facilities nearby. Look, I know this is hard, but Jessica and I are prepared to help. In fact, he pulled out another document. We've already found a great place, Meadowbrook Senior Living. They have a 2-bedroom unit available next month. Next month? Ryan, I haven't agreed to anything. Mom, be realistic. Do you want to be a burden? The word hit me like a slap. Burden. After $65,000, after raising him, loving him, sacrificing for him. I'm not a burden, I said quietly, and I'm not moving. His jaw tightened. That's when I saw it, the real Ryan, the one who'd been hiding behind the dutiful son mask. We'll talk about this later, when you're thinking more clearly. He left the papers and walked out. Didn't stay for pie, didn't ask how I was doing. Just gone, like I was an obstacle he'd deal with another day. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Harold, about the house, about everything we'd built. At 2 in the morning, I got up and made tea, sitting at the kitchen table in the dark, except for the glow of the Christmas lights outside. That's when I noticed my filing cabinet drawer was open, just slightly. The one where I kept important documents, birth certificates, insurance papers, the deed to the house. The deed to the house. My hands shook as I pulled open the drawer completely. Everything looked normal at first, but the deed was in a different folder than where I always kept it. I pulled it out and my heart stopped. It was a copy, a notarized copy dated 6 months ago. The property transfer document beneath it showed my signature, except I'd never signed anything. The deed listed Ryan and Jessica as co-owners. He'd forged my signature. My own son had committed fraud. I sat there until dawn, that document in my hands, watching the sunrise through my kitchen window. The Christmas lights looked garish now, mocking. All those years of loving him, providing for him, sacrificing for him. And this was how it ended. I should have called the police right then, should have called a lawyer. But I was 75 years old and tired and heartbroken, and part of me still wanted to believe there was an explanation, that my son wasn't a thief. So I called him instead. Ryan, we need to talk. Today, it's important. He showed up that afternoon with Jessica. They both had that same expression, like they'd rehearsed this, like they'd planned it. Mom, before you say anything, just listen, Jessica started. We did this for your protection. You're getting older, and if something happened to you, the probate process would be a nightmare. This way, everything's taken care of. You forged my signature. We protected your assets, Ryan said. Think of it as estate planning. It's fraud. His face hardened. Who were you going to tell? The police? You really want to send your own son to jail? What would Dad think? The mention of Harold made something snap inside me. Don't you dare use your father to justify this. Face it, Mom, you're not capable of managing this property anymore. We're doing you a favor. Then you can undo it, transfer it back, today. Ryan and Jessica exchanged a look. That's when I knew. They'd never planned to give it back. We can't do that, Jessica said sweetly. The paperwork's already filed. But don't worry, you can stay here as long as you want. It's still your home. As long as I want, this is my house. Legally, it's ours now. But like Jessica said, you're welcome to stay. Just maybe think about being more grateful. We've been very patient with you." They left me standing in my living room, surrounded by Christmas decorations that now felt like decorations for a funeral. I was a guest in my own home, a tolerated presence in the house Harold and I had bought in 1978, where we'd raised our son, where we'd built our life. That night, I went down to the basement. It was the last place that still felt like Harold's. His workbench was still there, covered in dust. His tools hung on the pegboard, organized exactly how he liked them. The whole space smelled like motor oil and old wood and memories. I sat on his stool and cried, really cried, for the first time since the funeral. Not quiet tears, but gut-wrenching sobs that shook my whole body. I'd lost Harold to cancer. Now I was losing everything else to my own son. "I don't know what to do," I whispered to the empty basement. "Harold, I don't know what to do." And that's when I heard it, or remembered it. Harold's voice from 5 years ago, 2 weeks before he died. He'd been weak, barely able to walk, but he'd insisted on going down to the basement. I'd helped him down the stairs, worried he'd fall. He touched the far wall, the one behind the water heater, the one nobody ever looked at because it was covered in old shelves and boxes. "Maggie," he said, "if anything happens to me, if you ever need help, check the wall." "What wall, honey? You're not making sense." "This wall, behind the boxes. Promise me you'll remember." I'd promised, but I thought it was the morphine talking. The cancer had spread to his brain by then. He said a lot of strange things those last few weeks. Now, standing in that same basement, I walked over to the wall, started moving boxes. They were heavy, full of old tax returns and Harold's papers from his accounting business. Behind them were metal shelving units bolted to the wall. No, not bolted to the wall, bolted to a frame in front of the wall. My heart started pounding. I grabbed Harold's crowbar from the workbench and pried at the frame. It came away easier than it should have, like it was designed to be removed. Behind it, the drywall looked newer than the rest of the basement, patched, painted carefully to match. I was 75 years old with arthritis in both hands, but I swung that crowbar at the drywall like I was 25. It cracked, crumbled. Behind it was another layer, old brick, the original foundation wall from 1952 when the house was built. Except there was a gap, a hollow space, and when I shined my phone's flashlight into it, I saw something that made my breath catch. Metal boxes, small, heavy, stacked carefully in the hidden cavity. Each one marked with Harold's precise handwriting. Dad's collection, emergency only. Harold's father had fought in World War II, had brought back things. I'd never asked what things because it seemed rude, seemed like prying into old pain. But now, with shaking hands, I pulled out one of the boxes. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, were gold coins. Not just a few, dozens, maybe hundreds. German, French, British, some so old they looked like they belonged in a museum. I opened another box, more coins, gold bars, small ones, but gold nonetheless. All carefully documented in Harold's handwriting, dates, weights, estimated values from various years. The last box I opened had a letter, my name on the envelope in Harold's handwriting. "My dearest Maggie, if you're reading this, I'm gone and you need help. My father taught me that the world can take everything from you except what you hide. He survived a war. I survived my childhood. This is our insurance, our freedom. Use it wisely. Use it to protect yourself. I'm sorry I never told you. I wanted you to live without fear. But if you're here, that means you need to be strong now. Be stronger than you ever thought you could be. The world will try to take from you. Don't let it. I love you, always." I sat on that cold basement floor, surrounded by gold and memories and the wreckage of my trust in my own son. And I started to laugh. Not happy laughter, the kind of laughter that comes when the universe reveals its most absurd joke. My son thought he'd stolen my house. He had no idea what I'd just found. I was carefully replacing the drywall, planning my next move, when I heard footsteps upstairs. Multiple footsteps, voices,
Ryan's voice, Jessica's voice, and others I didn't recognize. I climbed the basement stairs quietly, listening. Already contacted a developer. He says with the lot size we should subdivide. And what about your mother? That was Jessica. Meadowbrook has an opening. We'll move her next week. She'll adjust. And if she fights us? Ryan's laugh was cold. She's 75 and alone. Who's going to help her? She gave us all her money. She doesn't even have enough left for a good lawyer. I stood frozen on the stairs, my hand on the railing. They were planning to institutionalize me, take everything. They'd already spent my money. Now they wanted my home, my freedom, my dignity. I started back down to the basement to hide the evidence of what I'd found when the door at the top of the stairs suddenly opened. Ryan stood there, backlit by the kitchen lights, his face in shadow. "Mom, what are you doing down there?" "Just looking for something." My voice sounded weak even to my own ears. "Looking for what?" "Old photos for Thanksgiving." He came down 3 steps. Then Jessica appeared behind him. Then 2 other people I'd never seen before, a man and woman in business clothes carrying clipboards. "Actually, Mom, perfect timing," Ryan said. "These are social workers. We've been worried about you. You've been acting strange, forgetful. We think you need an evaluation." "I'm not forgetful. I'm fine." "You called me 5 times yesterday asking what day it was." He looked at the social workers. "See, she doesn't even remember." I hadn't called him at all, not once. He was lying, and they were believing him. "Mrs. Peterson, we just want to ask you a few questions," the woman said kindly. Too kindly. The voice you use with children and dementia patients. They all came down the stairs, surrounded me in my own basement, started asking questions designed to make me look confused, incompetent. "What's today's date? Who's the president? What did you have for breakfast?" I answered everything correctly, but I could see they'd already made up their minds. Ryan had set this up. The forged deed wasn't enough. He wanted me declared incompetent. That's when I saw Jessica looking at the wall where I'd just replaced the drywall. I'd done it hastily. There were cracks, obvious repair marks. "What happened there?" she asked. "Old water damage from years ago." She walked over, touched the wall. "This looks fresh." "It's not." Ryan moved closer too. "Mom, what's behind this wall?" "Nothing. It's just old foundation problems." He grabbed Harold's crowbar, my crowbar now, from the workbench. "Let's see." "Ryan, don't." But he was already swinging. The drywall cracked. Through the hole, we could all see the brick cavity. Empty now. I'd moved the boxes while they were upstairs, hidden them in the old coal room behind more boxes. But Ryan didn't know that. What was here? His voice was dangerous now. "Nothing. Your father did work down here sometimes. I don't know what." "You're lying." He swung again, making the hole bigger, looking for something valuable, looking for whatever he thought I was hiding. The social workers were talking quietly, making notes. This probably looked exactly like what Ryan wanted it to look like. An old woman, paranoid, tearing apart her own walls, losing her grip on reality. "I think we've seen enough," the male social worker said. "Mrs. Peterson, we're recommending a full psychiatric evaluation for your safety." "I'm not crazy. This is my house. These are my walls. I can do whatever I want with them." "Mom," Ryan said, putting his hand on my shoulder. It felt like a trap closing. "It's our house now, remember? We're just trying to help you." Jessica pulled out her phone. "I'll call Meadowbrook, let them know she's coming tonight." "Tonight? You can't just." "We can, and we will." Ryan's face was hard, final. "This has gone on long enough. You're not well. You need professional help." They started herding me with the stairs. The social workers were talking about emergency holds, 72-hour evaluations, medication management, words that meant taking away my freedom, my autonomy, my life. I thought about the gold, about Harold's letter, about everything I'd lost and everything I was about to lose. And then the basement door slammed shut above us. The lock clicked. We all froze. Ryan tried the door. Locked. He pounded on it. Who the hell locked this? "Maybe it was the wind," Jessica said, but her voice was uncertain. "There's no wind. We're inside." Ryan pulled out his phone. "No signal down here. Perfect." The social workers were getting nervous now, talking about inappropriate home conditions, safety hazards. Ryan kept pounding on the door, calling out, but the house was empty except for us. Then the lights went out. Complete darkness. Someone screamed. I think it was Jessica. Ryan was shouting, his voice echoing off the brick walls. The social workers were trying to call for help on phones that had no signal. And in that darkness, I felt the strangest sense of calm, because I knew this basement. I knew where Harold kept the emergency flashlight, the spare key, the breaker box. I knew every inch of this space because Harold and I had made it together. But they didn't know. They were trapped in a stranger's basement, in the dark, scared and angry, and realizing for the first time that maybe they didn't have as much control as they thought. I stood there in the darkness, listening to my son panic, and I whispered so quietly only I could hear, "Thank you, Harold." The lights flickered back on. Must have been a loose breaker, I'd tell them later. The door, well, old houses settle, locks stick sometimes, could happen to anyone. But the look on Ryan's face when the lights came back showed me everything I needed to know.
The basement stayed dark for 3 hours after they left. I wanted it that way. I sat on Harold's workbench stool, surrounded by shadows and secrets, and I planned my war. Upstairs, I could hear Ryan and Jessica moving around. They hadn't left. Of course they hadn't. They were searching, looking through drawers, opening closets, looking for what they thought I had hidden, looking for leverage. "There's nothing here," Jessica's voice carried through the floorboards. "Maybe she really is losing it." "She's hiding something. Did you see her face? She knows exactly what she's doing." I smiled in the darkness. "Yes, Ryan, I know exactly what I'm doing now." Through the small basement window, I could see snow starting to fall. Early December snow, the kind that makes everything look clean and new, like the world is starting over. Christmas music drifted from somewhere, Mrs. Chen's house probably, playing those old carols she loved, Silent Night or maybe Oh Holy Night. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd spent the last 3 hours cataloging everything in Harold's hiding place. 73 gold coins from various countries and eras, 12 small gold bars, each about 3 ounces, a collection of rare silver dollars, and documents, so many documents. Purchase receipts, authentication certificates, appraisal records dating back 40 years. The last appraisal, from 18 months ago, valued the collection at $1.2 million. $1.2 million that my son knew nothing about. Harold had been planning for this, not specifically for Ryan's betrayal. Harold had loved our son, would have been destroyed by what Ryan had become. But Harold had grown up watching his own parents lose everything in the Depression, then his father lose part of himself in the war. He'd learned early that the world could take anything that wasn't nailed down and hidden. So he'd hidden this, for me, for the day I'd need it. I heard footsteps on the stairs again, Ryan coming back down. I'd expected this. He wouldn't be able to let it go. "Mom, you still down here?" I didn't answer. Let him come to me. Let him feel uncertain in what he thought was his house now. He found me sitting in the darkness by the workbench. He flipped the light switch, and I watched him flinch at my expression. I wasn't crying anymore, wasn't pleading. I was calculating, and something in my face must have told him that. "What are you doing down here?" "Remembering your father. Do you remember him, Ryan? Really remember him?" "Of course I remember, Dad. What kind of question is that?" "Do you remember how he'd come down here every Sunday night? How he'd spend hours organizing his tools, checking the foundation, maintaining things? Do you remember what he used to say about preparation?" Ryan's jaw tightened. He was paranoid, grew up poor, never got over it. He was smart. There's a difference. I stood up slowly, my arthritis making my knees crack. "Your father knew something you're just learning now. You can't take what you can't find." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means this house has secrets. It means you think you've won, but you don't even know what game we're playing." He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. 6 feet tall to my 5'3", 50 years old to my 75, strong, healthy, angry.
But I'd buried a husband. I'd survived cancer myself 12 years ago. I'd raised a child through colic and rebellion and everything in between. I'd lived through 3/4 of a century of joy and heartbreak and grinding ordinary survival.
This house is
couldn't
legally
intimidate me
ours
anymore.
now, he said. The deed is filed. The social workers saw you acting erratic. We can have you declared incompetent if we need to. So whatever you're planning, whatever you think you're hiding down here, it doesn't matter. You've already lost. I walked past him toward the stairs. You're right about one thing, Ryan. Someone's already lost. You just don't know who yet. I left him standing there in the basement, in his dead father's workshop, looking for ghosts and gold he'd never find. The next morning, I started making calls. The first was to an estate attorney named Patricia Moreno, whose name I found online with reviews praising her work helping elderly clients fight financial abuse. Her office was downtown, in one of those old buildings with marble floors and dark wood paneling that made you feel like justice actually lived there. Mrs. Peterson, tell me everything, she said after I'd explained the forged deed. She had kind eyes but a steel spine. I could see it in how she held her pen, ready to write, ready to fight. I showed her the forged documents, showed her my journal of every dollar I'd given Ryan over 5 years, showed her the deed history that proved I'd never initiated or approved any property transfer. This is fraud, she said flatly. Clear, prosecutable fraud. We can file criminal charges. How long would that take? Months, maybe a year. The system moves slowly. I don't have a year. They want to institutionalize me. They're setting me up to look incompetent. Patricia tapped her pen against her desk. There's another way. Faster, more expensive, but faster. Tell me. Force a sale. If the deed is contested, we can petition the court to order the property sold at auction, with proceeds divided by ownership percentage. Since you technically own 0% now, according to the forged deed, you wouldn't get anything, but neither would they until the fraud investigation is complete. It freezes everything. And then you buy your own house back at auction, under a different name, through an LLC. They never know it's you bidding. You win, you own it outright, clean title. The fraud case proceeds separately, and you can pursue criminal charges once you're safe. How much would that cost? She named a number, $600,000, maybe more, depending on bidding. Market value for my neighborhood had gone up. Houses like mine were selling fast. I thought about Harold's gold, about $1.2 million hidden in my basement. How long to set up the LLC? 3 days, if we rush it. Do it. I spent those 3 days living like a ghost in my own home. Ryan and Jessica had moved in completely now. They'd taken over the master bedroom, my bedroom, where Harold had died, where I'd slept alone for 3 years. They'd moved their kids into the guest rooms. My belongings were being consolidated into the small bedroom off the kitchen, the one we'd used as a home office. Just temporarily, Mom, Jessica said with that fake sweetness, until we figure out your situation. My situation, like I was a problem to be solved instead of a human being, instead of their mother. I played along, acted confused sometimes, docile. I let them think they'd won, because that's what predators need to believe before you spring the trap. At night, after they'd gone to bed, I'd go down to the basement. I'd started selling the gold, piece by piece, through reputable dealers. Cash transactions, under reporting limits, nothing that would trigger attention. I took the money and deposited in a new account at a new bank under my maiden name, Margaret Ann Sullivan. The girl I'd been before I became Peterson, before I became Mom, before I became whoever they thought I was now. Margaret Sullivan had $1.2 million. Margaret Peterson had nothing left to lose. Christmas decorations went up on their schedule now, not mine. Jessica bought new ones, modern, minimalist, nothing like the ceramic village and vintage ornaments Harold and I had collected. She packed my decorations in boxes, marked donate, and put them in the garage. I found them there one afternoon, opened the boxes.
held the little ceramic church with the broken steeple that Harold had glued back together in 1993. The snowman ornament Ryan had made in 2nd grade, his handprint preserved in clay. "Those are old, Margaret," Jessica said, appearing behind me. She'd stopped calling me Mom. "We need to declutter. Fresh start. These are memories. They're dust collectors." She took the box from my hands. "I know change is hard at your age, but you'll adjust. At my age, like 75 meant I was already dead, already irrelevant, already erased." I let her take the box, let her think she was in control. Because that night, I met with Patricia again, and she had news. The court approved the forced sale. Auction is scheduled for December 20th. I've set up your LLC, Vintage Properties Trust. Very generic, very anonymous. You'll bid by phone so they never see you. What about Ryan? He'll find out about the auction in 3 days when he receives official notice. By law, we have to inform all deed holders. He'll probably try to stop it, but the fraud investigation is enough grounds to proceed. Judge agreed. Will he bid? Probably, but he doesn't have money. You made sure of that by giving him all yours. She smiled grimly. Ironic, isn't it? What about a mortgage? Hard to get a mortgage on a contested property. Banks don't like risk. My guess? He'll try, fail, and the house will sell. Question is whether anyone else bids up the price. What's the opening bid? $450,000, market value. I thought about my gold coins sitting in a safe deposit box at my new bank. About the cash accounts, carefully structured, carefully hidden. I could go to $800,000 if I need to. Patricia's eyebrows raised. "Mrs. Peterson, where did you—" She stopped herself. "Actually, I don't need to know, but I'm glad you have resources." That's good. That's very good. Ryan found out about the auction on December 12th. I was in the kitchen making tea when the sheriff's deputy arrived with the notice. Ryan signed for it, read it, and I heard his roar from 2 rooms away. "What the fuck?" Jessica came running. "What? What is it? The house is being auctioned? Some legal bullshit about contested ownership? This is her!" He stormed into the kitchen, waving the paper in my face. "You did this! You bitter old bitch! You did this!" I stirred honey into my tea slowly, didn't look up. "The courts did this, Ryan, not me." "Bullshit! You went to a lawyer, you—" He stopped, calculated. "Fine, fine. We'll just buy it at auction. It's legally ours anyway. We'll get a mortgage, buy it properly, and then you're gone. You hear me?
We'll get a
Gone.
loan?
You'll need
On
money
a
for that."
contested property? Good luck. His face turned red. "Then we'll use cash. We'll figure it out." But I could see the fear in his eyes. He knew he didn't have cash, knew he'd spent everything I'd given him, knew he was about to lose what he'd stolen. Jessica grabbed his arm. "Ryan, maybe we should talk to Margaret, work something out. She could agree to transfer it back properly, and we could—" "I'm not negotiating with her." He threw the paper across the room. "This is our house. We're not losing it." But they were. They just didn't know it yet. Over the next week, I watched them scramble. Ryan applied for loans, denied. He tried to get a home equity line of credit, denied. Property and legal dispute. He called his sister in California, who I hadn't spoken to in 2 years, begging for money. She hung up on him. He started drinking. I'd find empty beer bottles in the trash, vodka hidden in the garage. Jessica got quieter, more brittle. They fought in whispers after the kids went to bed, their voices hissing through the walls like steam. The kids, Emma and Brady, they knew something was wrong. Emma asked me one night why Grandpa's pictures were gone from the walls. Jessica had taken them down, replaced them with generic art from Target. "Grandma, are you okay?" Emma was 13, old enough to sense disaster. "I'm fine, sweetheart. Dad says you're sick, that you have to go to a special hospital." I touched her face. She looked like Ryan had as a child. Same eyes, same serious expression. I wondered what she'd become. If she'd learn her parents' cruelty, or if she'd be better than them. "Your dad is wrong about a lot of things," I said.
But you're not wrong. You're good and smart and kind. Remember that, okay? No matter what happens. She hugged me. It was the last time she did. December 19th, the night before the auction. Snow was falling heavy outside, covering everything in white. Christmas lights blinked on houses up and down the street, and somewhere a church bell rang for evening services. Ryan came to find me in my small bedroom. I was packing a suitcase, for show, so they'd think I was accepting defeat. "Mom, I need money." I looked at him, really looked at him. When had he become this person? When had the sweet boy who'd brought me dandelions and called me his best friend turned into this hollow, grasping thing? "You took all my money, Ryan, remember? I know you have more. Dad had to have left you more than just the house. He was paranoid, he was a hoarder, he had to have cash hidden somewhere. Your father left me nothing but this house, which you stole. I didn't steal it, I protected it." He was yelling now, desperate. "You're old, you're going to die soon. I was just making sure it stayed in the family." Is that what you tell yourself? He grabbed my arms, not hard enough to bruise, but hard enough to scare. "Mom, please, I'm begging you. I need 50,000, just 50,000 to make a down payment, to show the bank I'm serious. I'll pay you back. I swear I'll pay you back." I looked at his hands on my arms, looked at his face, red, sweating, panicked. This was my son, my baby, the child I'd carried and birthed and loved with every cell of my body. And he was hurting me. "Let go of me, Ryan." Not until. Let go. Something in my voice made him release me. I straightened my sleeves, calm as glass. "I don't have $50,000. I don't have $50. You took it all. Every pension check, every bit of savings, every last dollar your father and I worked for. You took it and spent it on cars and vacations and private schools and whatever else you wanted. So no, Ryan, I can't help you. You've made sure of that." He stared at me like I was a stranger. "You're really going to let them take this house? Dad's house? You already took it. This is just paperwork." He left, slammed the door so hard the wall shook. I heard him downstairs, heard the crash of something breaking, one of Jessica's new decorations probably, and then the slam of the front door as he left. Jessica knocked softly a few minutes later. "Margaret, can we talk?" I opened the door. She stood there in her expensive athleisure wear, her highlighted hair perfect, her face carefully concerned. "I know Ryan can be intense," she said, "but he's just scared. We're both scared. We put everything into this house. Our future is here. You put my money into this house, not yours, mine. We're family. What's yours is ours. Isn't that how it works?" "Apparently. But it only flows one direction, doesn't it?" She bit her lip. "What if we made a deal? You sign over the house properly, legally, and we'll pay you rent, $2,000 a month. You can stay here, keep your room, be with your grandchildren. Isn't that better than fighting? $2,000 a month for a house worth $450,000 that I'd paid for, that I'd lived in for 47 years? No deal." "Margaret, be reasonable." "Get out of my room." She left, and that night I barely slept, listening to the house creak and settle, wondering if this was the last night I'd spend here, wondering if Harold would forgive me for what I was about to do, wondering
December 20th,
if I'd
auction
forgive
day.
myself.
I wasn't allowed to attend in person. Conflict of interest, Patricia explained. So I went to her office and sat in a conference room with a speakerphone while the auction happened at the courthouse downtown. Ryan was there. Patricia's assistant texted me updates. "He's here with Jessica, looks nervous, no lawyer." The auction started at 10 a.m. Opening bid, $450,000. Ryan bid, $475. Then someone else bid, $500,000. Ryan again, $525. The other bidder, $550. My heart was hammering. Who was the other bidder? A developer? A house flipper? Someone who actually wanted to live there? Ryan bid $575. Patricia looked at me.
I nodded. She called in my bid through Vintage Properties Trust, $600,000. The room went silent on the other end. Then Ryan's voice, distant but clear. Who is that? Who's bidding? Bidder 247, do you counter? The auctioneer asked. Silence. Ryan couldn't counter, didn't have the money. The other bidder had dropped out at my aggressive jump. Going once? Going twice? Wait, Ryan's voice. Can I have 5 minutes? I need to make a call. No additional time granted. Going twice. Sold to Vintage Properties Trust for $600,000. It was done. I'd bought my own house back from my own son. Patricia clicked off the speakerphone. Congratulations, Mrs. Peterson. You're a homeowner again. I started crying. Not sad tears, not happy tears, just release. 3 years of grief, 5 years of being used, 75 years of trying to be good and kind and loving, and it all came out in that conference room while Patricia tactfully pretended to review paperwork. My phone rang. Ryan. I let it go to voicemail. He called again, 15 times in 10 minutes. Finally, I answered. Who bought it? He was screaming. Some fucking LLC. Who is it? I don't know, Ryan. It's out of my hands now. This is your fault. You did this. You took my house. Your house? I'm confused. I thought it was your house this whole time. Isn't that what you told me? I'm going to sue. I'm going to fight this. You're going to do nothing, I said quietly. Because if you fight this, I file criminal charges for fraud. I have the forged deed. I have evidence you knew I never signed it. I have my journal of every dollar you stole. So you can accept this and walk away, or you can go to prison. Your choice. Silence. Then, I hate you. I fucking hate you. I know, sweetheart, but I still love you. That's the difference between us. I hung up. The eviction notice was served on December 23rd. Vintage Properties Trust, the new owner, required immediate possession. Ryan and Jessica had 72 hours to vacate. I watched from Patricia's office via security cameras her assistant had helped me install the week before. Watched Ryan throw furniture, watched Jessica cry, watched them pack their perfect life into a U-Haul while their children sat on the curb, confused and scared. Emma looked at the house one last time before they left, looked right at the camera, like she knew I was watching, mouthed something that might have been goodbye. They left on December 24th, Christmas Eve. The house was empty by 3 p.m. I waited until 6 p.m. to come home, wanted to make sure they were really gone. Patricia came with me, just in case. The house was wrecked. They'd taken everything they could carry and destroyed what they couldn't. Holes punched in walls, cabinets torn off hinges. My ceramic Christmas village, the pieces Jessica had boxed up to donate, smashed on the kitchen floor. But they'd missed things. They'd missed the floorboards in the master bedroom where Harold had hidden old love letters. They'd missed the loose brick in the fireplace where we'd kept our passports. They'd missed the basement hiding place because they'd never really looked, never really understood what they were dealing with. And they'd missed something else. On the kitchen table, weighted down with a rock, was an envelope. Inside, a note from Ryan. Mom, I know this was you somehow. I don't know how, but I know. You destroyed our family. You destroyed my children's future. I hope you're happy in this empty house with your memories. I hope they keep you warm when you're dying alone. We're never coming back. You'll never see your grandchildren again. You won. I hope it was worth it. Ryan. I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer with all the other evidence of what he'd done. Because part of me, the mother part that never dies no matter how much it hurts, part of me still hoped he'd come back someday, apologize, make it right. But most of me knew better. The eviction notice was served on December 23rd. Vintage Properties Trust, the new owner, required immediate possession. Ryan and Jessica had 72 hours to vacate. I watched from Patricia's office via security cameras her assistant had helped me install the week before. Watched Ryan throw furniture, watched Jessica cry, watched them pack their perfect life into a U-Haul while their children sat on the curb, confused and scared. Emma looked at the house one last time before they left, looked right at the camera, like she knew I was watching, mouthed something that might have been goodbye. They left on December 24th, Christmas Eve. The house was empty by 3 p.m. I waited until 6 p.m. to come home, wanted to make sure they were really gone. Patricia came with me, just in case. The house was wrecked. They'd taken everything they could carry and destroyed what they couldn't. Holes punched in walls, cabinets torn off hinges. My ceramic Christmas village, the pieces Jessica had boxed up to donate, smashed on the kitchen floor. But they'd missed things. They'd missed the floorboards in the master bedroom where Harold had hidden old love letters. They'd missed the loose brick in the fireplace where we'd kept our passports. They'd missed the basement hiding place because they'd never really looked, never really understood what they were dealing with. And they'd missed something else. On the kitchen table, weighted down with a rock, was an envelope. Inside, a note from Ryan. "Mom, I know this was you somehow. I don't know how, but I know. You destroyed our family. You destroyed my children's future. I hope you're happy in this empty house with your memories. I hope they keep you warm when you're dying alone. We're never coming back. You'll never see your grandchildren again. You won. I hope it was worth it. Ryan." I read it twice. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer with all the other evidence of what he'd done. Because part of me, the mother part that never dies no matter how much it hurts, part of me still hoped he'd come back someday, apologize, make it right.
I spent Christmas Eve
most of me
cleaning,
knew better.
fixing what I could, documenting what I couldn't for the insurance claim. Mrs. Chen came over with cookies and helped me sweep up the broken ceramics. She didn't ask questions, just hummed Christmas carols and cleaned, and her presence was a gift I hadn't known I needed. At midnight, I sat in my living room, with the lights off except for the glow of the one decoration they'd missed, a small nativity scene Harold had carved by hand the year Ryan was born. Mary and Joseph, the baby Jesus, 3 wise men, all rough and imperfect and beautiful. Harold had never been religious, but he'd loved the story, loved the idea of starting over, of hope born in the darkest time, of light coming into the world when everything seemed lost. I held that carved wooden Mary and cried for the 3rd time that day. For my son, for my marriage, for my husband, for everything I'd lost and everything I'd saved. And then I did something I hadn't done in years. I prayed. Not to God exactly. I wasn't sure I believed in God anymore. But to Harold, to the universe, to whatever force decides these things. "Thank you," I whispered. "Thank you for the wall. Thank you for the gold. Thank you for knowing I'd need it. Thank you for loving me enough to prepare me for this." Outside, church bells rang from midnight mass. Christmas Day had arrived, and I was home. Really home. Finally home. On December 26th, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mrs. Peterson, this is Detective Sarah Chen with the Fraud Division. I understand you filed a complaint regarding forged property documents." Yes, I have." "I've reviewed your case. I'd like to talk to you about pressing charges. Are you available this week?" I thought about Ryan, about Emma and Brady, about what it would do to them to have their father arrested, prosecuted, possibly imprisoned. I thought about what he'd done to me, what he'd planned to do, how he'd stolen and lied and tried to erase me. "Yes," I said, "I'm available. Let's talk." Because love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. Harold had taught me that. He'd loved me enough to give me weapons, to give me a way out, to give me the means to save myself. Now, I had to love myself enough to use them. The detective and I scheduled a meeting. I hung up and looked around my house. Damaged, imperfect, but mine. All mine. And I realized something.
I'd spent 75 years being what other people needed: the good daughter, the good wife, the good mother, the easy target. But Harold had left me enough gold to buy my freedom. Now I had to decide what to do with it. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find a delivery person with a huge box. Margaret Peterson? Yes. Delivery from Vintage Properties Trust. I took the box inside, confused, opened it. Inside were all my Christmas decorations, the ones Jessica had marked for donation. Someone had rescued them, cleaned them, wrapped them carefully. At the bottom was a note in Patricia's handwriting. Every queen needs her crown jewels. Merry Christmas. P. I laughed, actually laughed, and then I spent the rest of the day putting up my decorations properly. The ceramic village on the mantel, each piece in its place. The vintage ornaments on the tree. The stockings, Harold's and mine, and yes, even Ryan's, because I wasn't ready to erase him completely. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The house looked like itself again, like home. That night, I got a text from an unknown number. Furnace repair needed, $1,200. Can you Venmo? Your house too. Ryan. He didn't know yet, didn't know I owned it, didn't know I'd won, still thought he could squeeze more money out of me. I stared at that text for a long time, thought about ignoring it, thought about blocking him, thought about replying with the truth. Instead, I wrote, I don't live there anymore. Try the new owner. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, then nothing. I turned off my phone and went to bed in my own house, in my room, in the bed where Harold had died, and where I've grieved, and where I was, finally starting to live again. Tomorrow would bring more complications: the fraud investigation, the property damage claims, the question of what to do with the rest of the gold. But tonight, I was home.
The week after
And
Christmas,
that
Patricia
was
called
enough.
with news. The fraud investigation is moving forward. Detective Chen wants to meet with you tomorrow. But there's something else. I was in the kitchen, scrubbing the last of the destruction Ryan had left behind. My knuckles were raw, but the work felt good, purposeful. What else? Ryan filed a countersuit. He's claiming you manipulated him, that you were mentally incompetent when you gave him money, that the deed transfer was done at your request, and you're now experiencing dementia-related paranoia. I stopped scrubbing. He's claiming I have dementia? Yes, he's requesting a psychiatric evaluation and attempting to get himself appointed as your legal guardian. If he succeeds, he'd control all your assets, including the house you just bought back. The sponge fell from my hand into the sink. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. He wasn't just trying to steal my house. He was trying to steal my entire life. Can he do that? He can try. The court will require evidence, medical records, witness testimony, expert evaluation. But Margaret, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. Where did the $600,000 come from? I'd known this question would come eventually. Patricia was too smart, too thorough to not wonder. I'd spent $65,000 on Ryan over 5 years. My pension and Social Security barely covered my living expenses. Where would a 75-year-old widow get $600,000 in cash? My husband left it to me. In a bank account? No. Then where? Because if Ryan's lawyers find out you had hidden assets and didn't disclose them during the deed transfer dispute, it could complicate things. They'll argue you were hiding money to manipulate the situation. I looked out the window. Snow had started falling again, covering the damage Ryan had done to the yard in his rage, covering everything in false purity. I need to show you something, I said. Can you come to my house? Patricia arrived an hour later with her briefcase and her questions. I led her down to the basement, to Harold's workshop, to the wall that had saved my life. I showed her everything: the hidden cavity, the remaining gold coins I hadn't sold yet, Harold's letter, the documentation he'd kept of every purchase, every appraisal, 40 years of careful preparation. She stood there in silence for a long time, holding one of the gold coins up to the light. "This is extraordinary," she finally said. "And it's all legal?"
Harold's father brought most of it back from the war. Legally, as far as I know, soldiers were allowed to keep certain items as souvenirs. The rest Harold purchased over the years from reputable dealers. Everything's documented. And Ryan never knew? Harold never told him, never told anyone, except me, and only at the very end. Patricia set down the coin carefully. This changes things. This is why Ryan's so desperate. He thinks there's more hidden somewhere. He probably searched this whole house and found nothing, so now he's convinced you're hiding money and lying about it. I am hiding money. I am lying about it. No, Patricia said firmly. You're protecting assets your husband legally left to you from a son who's already committed fraud. There's a difference. But we need to document this properly. Appraisals, provenance, everything. Because if this goes to court, Ryan's lawyers will tear it apart looking for irregularities. How long will that take? 2 weeks, maybe 3 if we rush it. I know a specialist in inherited valuables. Discretion guaranteed. I thought about the guardian hearing, about Ryan trying to have me declared incompetent.
The petition hearing
Do we
is in
have
6 weeks. We have time. Barely. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Emma and Brady, about how they'd looked sitting on the curb while their parents packed, about how Emma had said goodbye to the house like she was saying goodbye to me. At 2 a.m., I did something I shouldn't have. I opened Facebook on the iPad Ryan had bought me 2 Christmases ago, back when he still pretended to care. His page was public, no privacy settings. I scrolled through his posts from the past 6 months, and my heart sank with each one. Photos from a Disney cruise in July, 12 days, private balcony rooms, living our best life, #blessed, #family time. Pictures from a ski resort in Colorado in October, luxury lodge, private instructors for the kids. Jessica's new BMW, posted in September with 3 heart emojis. Ryan at a steakhouse, bottle of wine that probably cost $200 on the table, celebrating a great quarter, #success, entrepreneur. Every post, every picture, every humble brag caption funded by my money. Money I'd given him for emergencies and medical bills and debt. They'd been living like millionaires while telling me they were drowning. I scrolled further back, found posts from before Harold died. Ryan visiting me in the hospital after my knee surgery. Taking care of Mom today, family first, heart. With a selfie of us, me in a hospital bed, him smiling like a saint. The comments were full of praise. You're such a good son. Your mother is so lucky. This is what family is all about. It had all been performance. Every visit, every smile, every I love you, Mom, had been an investment in the long con. I closed the iPad and sat in the darkness of my bedroom, listening to the house settle around me. This house that had witnessed my entire adult life, where I brought Ryan home from the hospital, where he'd taken his first steps, where Harold had taught him to ride a bike in the driveway. Where had I gone wrong? What had I done to raise a son who could do this? The next morning, I met with Detective Chen at the police station. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a gentle manner that probably put a lot of suspects at ease before she destroyed them. Mrs. Peterson, thank you for coming in. I've reviewed your complaint and the supporting documentation. The forged signature on the deed is clear. What I need to understand is the context. Walk me through your relationship with your son over the past 5 years. So I did, all of it. Every dollar, every request, every promise of we'll pay you back that never materialized. The journal became evidence, each entry a nail in Ryan's coffin. And you gave this money willingly, Detective Chen asked. At the time, yes. He told me it was for medical expenses, education, emergencies. I didn't know he was lying. Did you ever ask for the money back? No, he's my son. Parents don't ask their children to pay them back. She made a note. Okay, now the deed. Tell me about the day you discovered the forgery.
I explained finding the documents, the signature that wasn't mine, the notary stamp from a date when I'd been at a doctor's appointment 2 hours away. I had the medical records to prove it. "This is solid," Detective Chen said. "Between the forged signature and the pattern of financial manipulation, we have grounds for fraud charges and potentially elder abuse. Are you prepared to testify against your son?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Was I prepared to send my own child to prison? I thought about Emma and Brady, about how a criminal conviction would destroy any chance Ryan had at redemption, about how it would mark those children forever, the ones whose dad went to jail from grandma. But I also thought about the 72 hours I'd spent thinking I was going to lose everything, about being shoved in a basement and locked in the dark, about Ryan's hands on my arms, his face red with rage. "Yes,"
The appraiser
I said,
Patricia hired
"I'll
came to the
testify."
house on New Year's Eve. His name was David Rothman, and he looked like he'd stepped out of a different century. Wire-rimmed glasses, bow tie, carrying a leather case that probably cost more than my car. "Mrs. Peterson, Patricia tells me you have some interesting items to evaluate." I showed him the basement, showed him the gold, watched his eyes widen as he examined each piece. "Extraordinary," he murmured, using a jeweler's loupe to examine a French coin from 1891. "Where did you say these came from?" "My late husband's father, World War II veteran." "The provenance is crucial. Do you have any documentation?" I showed him Harold's files, purchase receipts, letters from dealers, even a few photographs of Harold's father in uniform, standing in front of rubble in what might have been France or Germany. David worked for 4 hours, examining, photographing, documenting. When he finished, he looked at me seriously. "Mrs. Peterson, you're sitting on approximately $1.4 million. The collection has appreciated since the last appraisal. Some of these coins are quite rare." 1.4 million, 200,000 more than I thought. "I need this documented for a legal case," I said. "My son is trying to claim I'm hiding assets." "You're not hiding them, you're protecting them. There's a legal distinction. These were gifts from your husband, part of your inheritance. They're yours to do with as you please." He paused. "But I should warn you, if this goes to court, your son's lawyers will argue that your husband should have disclosed these assets during estate planning. They'll try to claim part of it should have gone to your son as inheritance." "Harold left everything to me in his will." "Then you're protected, but expect them to fight dirty." They did. On January 5th, I received a summons. Ryan was suing me for his rightful inheritance, claiming Harold had hidden assets that should have been split between me and Ryan according to family equity principles. There's no such thing as family equity principles in inheritance law. Patricia explained that Ryan's lawyers were throwing everything at the wall to see what stuck. "They're hoping you'll settle," she said. "Give him some money to go away." "How much would they want?" "Probably $500,000, maybe more." I laughed, actually laughed. He's already stolen $65,000 from me, tried to steal my house, tried to have me declared incompetent, and now he wants $500,000 more? Essentially, yes. "What happens if I fight?" "We go to court. It'll be public. It'll be ugly. Every detail of your family's finances will be exposed. Your grandchildren will probably testify. Are you ready for that?" I thought about Emma's face, about Brady, who was only 11, about what it would do to them to be caught in this war. But I also thought about what it would teach them if I surrendered, that cruelty wins, that theft goes unpunished, that you can destroy someone who loves you and get rewarded for it. "I'm ready," I said. While the legal battles raged in paperwork and depositions, I started rebuilding my house. The holes Ryan had punched in the walls got patched and painted. The cabinets he'd torn down got replaced, nicer ones this time, the kind Harold and I had always talked about installing but never had the money for. I had money now. I used Harold's gold carefully, selling pieces when I needed cash, keeping the rest secure. Every purchase felt like Harold was helping me, like we were finally doing all those home improvements we'd planned together.
Mrs. Chen came over most days. We'd have tea and she'd tell me about her children, her grandchildren, her life. She never asked about Ryan directly, but one day she said, "You know, Margaret, sometimes the people who hurt us most are the ones we loved best. It's not your fault." I keep wondering what I did wrong, what I missed. You loved him. That's not wrong. He's the one who chose to take advantage of that love. That's on him, not you. It helped, hearing that. But it didn't stop the 3 a.m. moments when I'd wake up crying, wondering if I'd been too harsh, if there was some way to fix this without destroying what was left of my family. In late January, I installed security cameras, professional ones, hidden in smoke detectors and door frames, covering every entrance and the main rooms of the house. Patricia had suggested it after Ryan's countersuit. He might try to break in, she said, looking for the gold, looking for evidence, looking for anything he can use against you. We need documentation if he does. I felt paranoid doing it, felt like I was preparing for war in my own home. But I did it anyway, because war was exactly what this had become. The cameras went live on
at
January
3:47 a.m. They caught Ryan and Jessica breaking into my house through the back door. I was awake. I'd been having insomnia for weeks, sitting in my bedroom reading when the security system alert went off on my phone. I pulled up the camera app and watched in real time as my son and his wife entered my kitchen. They moved quickly, professionally. Ryan went straight to the basement. Jessica started searching the living room, looking behind pictures, under furniture. They'd done this before, I realized. Probably the week I'd been at Patricia's office finalizing the house purchase. They'd probably searched the whole place then, too. My hands shook as I dialed 911. 911, what's your emergency? Someone's breaking into my house. I'm in my bedroom. They're downstairs. Are you safe? Can you lock your door? I locked it. Heard Ryan coming up from the basement, swearing. It's not here. There's nothing here. Check her bedroom, Jessica hissed. She has to keep it somewhere. Footsteps in the hallway, my doorknob turning. Mom, you awake? Ryan's voice, casual, like he wasn't breaking and entering. Like he hadn't jimmied my back door lock at 4 a.m. I didn't answer, kept the phone to my ear. The 911 operator was saying something about police being 2 minutes away. I know you're in there. Ryan's voice changed, got harder. Open the door, Mom. We need to talk about Dad's gold. I know you have it. I know that's how you bought the house. You owe me half. It's my inheritance, too. Sir, the police are on their way, I said loudly. You're being recorded. Everything you're saying is being recorded. Silence. Then Jessica. Shit, Ryan, we need to go, now. Not without, now. I heard them run, heard the back door slam. Pulled up the exterior camera and watched them sprint to their car parked 2 blocks away. Got a perfect view of the license plate. The police arrived 3 minutes later. I showed them the footage. They took a report, asked if I wanted to press charges. Yes, I said. Breaking and entering, attempted theft, whatever charges apply. The officer, a young woman with kind eyes, looked at me sympathetically. Ma'am, I have to tell you, this is going to make things complicated with your family. My family made things complicated when they forged my signature and stole my house. I'm just responding to theft with law. Seems simple to me. She nodded. We'll forward this to the DA's office. With the video evidence, this is solid. Ryan was arrested on February 5th at his apartment. Jessica wasn't charged. The DA said they couldn't prove she'd known the entry was illegal, that she could claim she thought Ryan still had rights to the property. But Ryan got charged with breaking and entering, attempted burglary, and violation of a restraining order I'd filed the day after the break-in. He posted bail, $10,000 he probably borrowed from Jessica's parents. And 2 days later, he showed up at my door. I saw him on the security camera before he rang the bell. He looked terrible, thinner, older. His eyes were red like he'd been crying or hadn't slept in days. I opened the door, but left the screen door locked between us. Mom, please, can we talk? You broke into my house. I was desperate. I'm losing everything. The apartment, the car. Jessica's threatening to take the kids and leave. I needed that gold. His voice cracked. I need help. For a moment, just a moment, I felt that old pull.
The mother instinct that wants to fix everything, protect your child from pain, make it all better. Then I remembered his hands on my arms, remembered being locked in the basement, remembered the forged deed. You need consequences, I said quietly. Not help, not money, consequences. You're my son. You were my son. I don't know what you are now. His face crumpled. I made mistakes. I know I did. But you made mistakes too. You were always comparing me to Dad, always making me feel like I wasn't enough. This house, this perfect life you had with him, I could never live up to it. So yeah, I took money. Yeah, I got angry. But you pushed me to this. I stared at him through the screen door. This stranger wearing my son's face, trying to make his theft and fraud and cruelty somehow my fault. Ryan, I loved you more than anything in this world. I gave you everything I had, and it still wasn't enough. That's not on me. That's on you. You chose greed. You chose cruelty. You chose to hurt me because you could. So what? You're just going to let me go to prison? Let your grandchildren lose their father? You did that, not me. I'm just refusing to save you from yourself anymore. He slammed his hand against the doorframe. You're going to regret this. When I'm gone, when the kids won't speak to you, when you're alone in this house with nothing but your precious memories, you'll regret it. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll be free. I closed the door, locked it, watched on the camera as he stood there for 5 more minutes, his shoulders shaking. Then he got in his car and drove away. I didn't cry until an hour later, making dinner in the kitchen where I'd fed him as a baby, where I'd packed his school lunches, where I'd celebrated every birthday and holiday an ordinary Tuesday. But I didn't call him, didn't take it back, didn't save him. Because Mrs. Chen was right.
The court date for the
His
guardian
choices
petition was
were his
set
own.
for March 15th. Ryan's lawyers had gotten a continuance, claiming they needed more time to gather medical evidence of my incompetence. What they were really doing was looking for any dirt they could find. They subpoenaed my medical records, interviewed my neighbors, even talked to the cashier at my grocery store, asking if I'd seemed confused or forgetful. Everyone told them the same thing. Margaret Peterson was sharp, independent, and perfectly capable. But they kept digging, kept hoping. The criminal trial for the forgery and breaking and entering was scheduled for April. The civil suit over Harold's hidden assets was stuck in discovery. Everything was happening at once, this cascade of legal nightmares that would have destroyed me 6 months ago. But I'd survived worse. I'd survived Harold's death. I'd survived cancer. I'd survived raising a teenager through the 90s. I could survive this. On March 1st, 2 weeks before the Guardian hearing, I got a visitor I didn't expect, Emma. She was standing on my porch, 13 years old and shivering in a thin jacket when I opened the door. Emma, sweetheart, what are you doing here? Does your mother know? Can I come in, please? I looked past her, expecting to see Jessica's car, some trap being sprung, but the street was empty. I took the bus, she said, reading my mind. Mom thinks I'm at volleyball practice. I needed to talk to you. I let her in, made her hot chocolate like I used to when she was little. We sat at the kitchen table, and for a minute, neither of us spoke. Grandma, I need to know something. Did you really steal our house? Her voice was small, lost. I wanted to say yes, wanted to take the blame, wanted to protect her from the truth about her father. But she deserved honesty. No, baby, I didn't steal anything. Your dad forged my signature and tried to take my house. I bought it back. That's all. She nodded slowly. He told me you were lying, that you were sick and making things up. But I saw the videos, the security footage. I saw him break in. My heart stopped. How did you see? Mom left her laptop open. The police sent the footage to Dad's lawyer. I saw it. Tears started running down her face. I saw my dad breaking into your house, trying to steal from you. And I keep thinking, what else has he lied about? What else don't I know? I reached across the table, held her hand.
Your dad loves you. Whatever else he's done, he loves you and your brother. Does he, or does he just love what we represent? The perfect family? The image? She pulled her hand back, wiped her eyes. I'm not stupid, Grandma. I know we couldn't afford that Disney cruise. I know Dad's business isn't doing well. And I remember you. I remember you giving us money all the time. Money for this, money for that. Where did it all come from? From me. From money your grandfather and I saved. And now it's gone, and Dad's mad because there's no more to take. She looked at me with eyes too old for 13. That's it, isn't it? He's not mad you defended yourself. He's mad the money ran out. I couldn't lie to her. Yes, I think that's part of it. She cried then, really cried, and I held her like I'd held her father when he was young, when he still let me comfort him, when he still believed I could fix anything. I don't want to testify, she whispered. Dad's lawyer says they're going to call me as a witness to say you're confused and forgetful, but you're not. You're the sanest person I know. Then tell the truth, Emma. Whatever they ask you, just tell the truth. Even if it hurts Dad, even then. Because lies are what got us here. Truth is the only way out. She left 20 minutes later, slipping out before her mother realized she was gone. But she hugged me first, held on tight. I love you, Grandma. Whatever happens, I love you. I love you too, sweetheart, so much. March 15th, guardian hearing. I wore the same dress I'd worn to Harold's funeral, simple, dignified, strong. Ryan's lawyers called their witnesses first. A neighbor who claimed she'd once seen me standing in my yard in my nightgown at noon. I'd been checking the mail while sick with the flu. A doctor who reviewed my records and noted I'd been prescribed anti-anxiety medication after Harold died. Grief is normal, not dementia. And finally, Emma. She walked to the witness stand in her school uniform, looking tiny and terrified. Ryan's lawyer smiled at her. Emma, you love your grandmother, don't you? Yes. And you've spent a lot of time with her over the years? Yes. Have you noticed her becoming more forgetful, more confused? Emma looked at me, looked at her father, looked at the judge. No, she said clearly. My grandmother is perfectly fine. She remembers everything. Sometimes I wish she'd forget some stuff because she'll bring up embarrassing things I did when I was like 6. A ripple of laughter through the courtroom. Ryan's lawyer frowned. But Emma, didn't you tell your father that Grandma sometimes forgets conversations, repeats herself? No, my dad said that. I never said that. Are you sure? Because we have a statement. I'm sure. My dad lies sometimes. Sorry, Dad, but you do. She looked at Ryan. You lied about a lot of things, and I'm not going to lie for you anymore. The courtroom went silent. Ryan's face turned red. Jessica started crying. And Emma stepped down from the witness stand, walked past her parents, and sat next to me. The judge called a recess. Patricia squeezed my hand. That just won the case. She was right. After lunch, the judge denied Ryan's petition for guardianship, said the evidence showed I was clearly capable of managing my own affairs, and that the petition appeared to be motivated by financial interest rather than genuine concern for Mrs. Peterson's welfare. Ryan stormed out without looking at me, but Emma stayed, held my hand, and when we left the courthouse, she asked if she could come visit me sometimes. Anytime you want, sweetheart, my door is always open to you. That night, I sat in my living room with a glass of wine, something I rarely did, but the occasion seemed to warrant it. The house was quiet, mine, safe. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. You took everything from me. I'll make sure you pay. Ryan, probably from a burner phone since I'd blocked his number. I read it twice. Then I took a screenshot, sent it to Patricia and Detective Chen, and blocked the number. Let him threaten. Let him rage. I'd survived his theft, his fraud, his cruelty. I could survive his anger too. Because I had something he'd never understand. I had nothing left to lose and everything to protect. And that made me more dangerous than he could ever be. I raised my wine glass to the picture of Harold on the mantel. We're winning, honey. One battle at a time, but we're winning. Outside, the last of winter's snow was melting. Spring was coming. And with it, the
Spring
reckoning
came to our
Ryan
street like a
didn't see
slow
coming.
exhale. The snow melted into mud, then into grass. Mrs. Chen planted tulips along her fence, and the smell of wet earth filled the air. Everything was waking up, starting over. Everything except my relationship with my son. The criminal trial for forgery and breaking and entering was scheduled for April 12th. Ryan had rejected 2 plea deals. The first would have given him probation and community service. The second added mandatory counseling but no jail time. His lawyer kept telling him to take it. He refused. "I'm not pleading guilty to protecting my inheritance," he told the prosecutor, according to Patricia. "This is a family dispute, not a crime." So we were going to trial. Patricia prepared me like a boxer getting ready for a championship fight. We went over every detail, every document, every moment. What to say, what not to say. How to stay calm when Ryan's lawyer tried to make me look vindictive or senile or whatever narrative they'd chosen. "They're going to paint you as a bitter old woman who can't accept that her son grew up and moved on," Patricia warned. "They're going to say you're weaponizing the legal system because you're lonely and want attention." Let them say what they want. I have the truth. Truth doesn't always win in court, Margaret. Performance does. Persuasion does. You need to be sympathetic but strong. Hurt but not vindictive. Can you do that? I thought about all the performances I'd given in my life. The cheerful mother at PTA meetings while Harold was dying. The brave patient during chemotherapy. The devoted wife at 72 years of family dinners, where I smiled and served and pretended not to notice when Ryan barely spoke to me. I've been performing my whole life, Patricia. I can do this. The week before the trial, something unexpected happened. Jessica called me. I almost didn't answer. Her number came up on caller ID, and my first instinct was to let it go to voicemail. But curiosity won. "Margaret, it's Jessica. Please don't hang up." "What do you want?" "I need to talk to you, in person. It's important." "If this is about dropping charges," "It's not, I promise. It's about, look, can I just come over? Please, just 20 minutes. Against my better judgment, I said yes. She arrived an hour later, and I barely recognized her. The perfectly styled hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. No makeup. She wore yoga pants and an old sweatshirt, and she'd lost weight. Not the healthy kind, the stress kind that makes her face look hollow. "Thank you for seeing me," she said, standing on my porch like she was afraid to come inside, like she thought I might attack her. "You have 15 minutes. We sat in the living room. She looked around at the decorations I'd put back up. The ceramic village, the family photos, all the things she tried to erase. "The house looks good," she said quietly, "like it used to." "What do you want, Jessica?" She took a breath. "I'm leaving Ryan." I'd prepared myself for a lot of things, but not that. "What?" "I'm filing for divorce, taking the kids. I already have a lawyer." She looked at me, and her eyes were red-rimmed but clear. "I need you to know something. The deed forgery, that was all Ryan. I didn't know until after. I swear I didn't know." "But you went along with it once you found out." "Yes, and that makes me complicit. I know that. But Margaret, I didn't know how bad it was. I didn't know about all the money he'd taken from you. He told me you'd offered, that you wanted to help. Did you ever ask me? Did you ever once call and say, 'Hey, Margaret, is this true?'" She looked down. "No, I wanted it to be true. We were drowning in debt, and I wanted to believe someone was going to save us. So I didn't ask questions. I just took."
Why are you telling me this now? Because Emma did something brave. She told the truth in that courtroom, even though it hurt her father. And I realized I've been teaching my children that lying is okay if it benefits you, that using people is fine if you need something. I've been teaching them to be like Ryan. She wiped her eyes. I can't do that anymore. I can't be that person anymore. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to feel vindicated, triumphant. But mostly, I just felt tired. What do you want from me, Jessica? Nothing. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to apologize. And to tell you that I'm going to testify at the trial for the prosecution. I'm going to tell them everything Ryan did, everything I know about the forgery and the planning and the break-in. He's going to hate me. He might try to take the kids from me, but it's the right thing to do. Why? Why now? She looked at me with something like desperation. Because Emma asked me what kind of person I want to be. And I realized I've been so focused on what I want that I forgot who I am, or who I used to be before all of this. She stood up. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know. She left. I sat there for an hour afterward, trying to process what had just happened. Jessica was leaving Ryan. Jessica was going to testify against him. My son was losing everything, and part of me felt relieved. But part of me, the mother part that never dies, felt like I was watching a building collapse with him still inside. The trial started on a Tuesday. The courthouse was downtown, and that marble building with the high ceilings that made every word echo. Patricia met me outside, looked me over like a general inspecting troops. You look perfect. Remember, calm, truthful,
Courtroom
dignified.
was half full.
I remember.
Reporters in the back? This had become a local news story, the sensational kind people love. Elderly woman fights back against greedy son. I hated being a headline, but Patricia said the publicity would help. Ryan sat at the defense table with his lawyer, a slick guy named Marcus Brennan who wore suits that cost more than my monthly pension. Ryan looked different too, older, harder. When our eyes met, there was nothing there. No recognition, no love, no regret. Just cold calculation. Jessica sat in the gallery behind the prosecution. When Ryan saw her, his face went dark. He leaned over to whisper something to his lawyer, who shook his head. Whatever Ryan wanted, the answer was no. The trial took 3 days. The prosecution went first, laying out the timeline. The money I'd given Ryan, the forged deed, the break-in. They had documentation for everything: my journal, bank records, security footage, the notary records that proved I'd been at a medical appointment when I supposedly signed the deed. Patricia had been right. It was solid. Then came the witnesses. Detective Chen testified about the investigation. The notary testified that she'd never seen me, that the signature on the deed didn't match her records. The handwriting expert testified that my signature had been forged. And then Jessica took the stand. Ryan's lawyer objected: spousal privilege, conflict of interest, every legal maneuver he could think of. But Jessica and Ryan weren't married anymore. She'd filed for divorce the week before, and the judge allowed her testimony. Mrs. Walker, can you tell us about your knowledge of the deed transfer? Jessica looked at Ryan. He stared back with pure hatred. Ryan forged it, she said quietly. I found out about 3 months after it was filed. He told me he'd done it to protect the house, that his mother was getting older, and this way the property would stay in the family without probate issues. Did you believe him? At first, yes. But then I saw him looking through Margaret's financial records. He had files on her pension, her Social Security, everything. He was planning how to access her accounts. Objection! Brennan was on his feet. Speculation! The witness has no direct knowledge.
I saw the files, Your Honor. He kept them in our home office, charts and spreadsheets showing her income and expenses. He was planning to get power of attorney once he had her declared incompetent. The courtroom erupted in whispers. The judge banged his gavel. Ryan was shaking his head, mouthing liar at Jessica. And the break-in on February 2nd, the prosecutor continued. Ryan said his father had hidden gold in the house. He was obsessed with finding it. When we broke in, he was looking for it. I told him to stop, that it was wrong. But he said it was his inheritance, that his mother had stolen it from him. But the gold was never his, was it? No, it belonged to Margaret. Her husband left it to her. When Jessica stepped down, she didn't look at Ryan. She walked straight out of the courtroom, and I never saw her at the trial again. Then came my turn. I walked to the witness stand on legs that felt like water, swore to tell the truth, looked out at the courtroom, at the reporters, the curious onlookers, Patricia's encouraging face, and at Ryan, my son, the baby I'd carried and birthed and loved with every atom of my being. The prosecutor started with easy questions: my name, my age, my relationship to the defendant. Then we moved into harder territory. Mrs. Peterson, can you tell us about the money you gave your son over the past 5 years? I pulled out my journal, the one Harold had given me, now entered as evidence. $65,214, $12,000 for braces, $15,000 for private school tuition, $8,000 for a car, $9,000 for a family vacation. I went through every entry, every request, every promise that it was the last time. By the time I finished, the jury looked sick. Did he ever pay you back? No. Did you ever ask him to? No. He's my son. I thought I was helping him. When did you discover the forged deed? I told them about that night. The open filing cabinet, the signature that wasn't mine, the betrayal that felt like dying. What did you do? I called him, asked him to come over. I wanted to believe there was an explanation. And what did he say? He said he'd done it for my protection, that I was getting older and this was estate planning. When I asked him to transfer it back, he refused. He told me it was too late, that the paperwork was already filed. I looked at Ryan. Then he told me I should be grateful, that he'd been patient with me. How did that make you feel? Like I'd lost my son. Like the person I'd raised and loved had become someone I didn't recognize. Ryan's lawyer cross-examined me for 2 hours, tried to make me look vindictive, tried to suggest I'd offered the money as gifts, that the deed transfer had been my idea initially, that I'd become bitter and forgetful in my old age. But I'd been preparing for this. I answered every question calmly, clearly. When he tried to rattle me, I stayed composed. When he suggested I was lying, I pointed to the documentation. Mr. Brennan, I have bank records for every withdrawal, medical records proving I was elsewhere when I supposedly signed the deed, security footage of your client breaking into my home. I understand you're doing your job, but I'm not the criminal here. Your client is. The jury loved it. I could see it in their faces. Ryan testified in his own defense against his lawyers of nice. He was smooth at first, explaining that he'd been trying to help me, that the deed transfer was a misunderstanding, that the break-in was him checking on his own property. But the prosecutor destroyed him. Mr. Peterson, you testified that you transferred the deed to help your mother with estate planning, but you never consulted an estate attorney, did you? No, but... And you never told your mother about it beforehand, did you? She knew, she just forgot. Mr. Peterson, we have testimony from 3 doctors that your mother has no signs of dementia or memory loss. Are you saying they're all wrong? She's old. Old people forget things. Your mother is 75 and sharp as a tack. She remembers every dollar she gave you, every conversation, every broken promise. Does that sound like someone who forgets things? Ryan's face was red. She's lying. She's bitter because I have a life and she's alone. You mean alone because you took her money and her house and tried to have her institutionalized? Objection! Brennan was shouting now, argumentative. But the damage was done. The jury had seen Ryan lose his temper, seen the real him, the one I'd seen in my kitchen that day. The trial ended on Thursday. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: forgery, fraud, breaking and entering. Ryan's face went white. Brennan was already talking about appeals. But the judge set sentencing for 2 weeks out, and Ryan was taken into custody pending bail review. As they led him away in handcuffs, he looked at me one last time. And he said something I'll never forget. "I hope you're happy, Mom. You finally won." I wasn't happy. I was hollowed out, victorious
Sentencing
and
was on
destroyed
April
all
28th.
at once.
The judge gave Ryan 18 months in prison, followed by 3 years probation. He also ordered restitution. Ryan had to pay back the $65,000 he'd taken from me, plus damages. Brennan argued for leniency, talked about Ryan's children, his lack of prior criminal record, his remorse. But I'd asked to speak at sentencing. Patricia had warned me I didn't have to, that it might be too hard, but I needed to say something, needed Ryan to hear it. Your Honor, I want to be clear about something. I didn't pursue these charges out of revenge or bitterness. I pursued them because my son committed crimes. He stole from me, lied to me, and tried to take away my freedom and my home. And if I'd stayed silent, I would have been teaching my grandchildren that this behavior is acceptable, that you can hurt the people who love you and get away with it. I looked at Ryan. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I loved my son more than anything in this world. I gave him everything I had, and it wasn't enough, because what he wanted wasn't love or help. It was control. It was money. It was the house his father and I built together. My voice cracked. I lost my son long before this trial. I'm just making it official now. The courtroom was silent, except for someone crying in the back. Emma, probably. I hope prison gives him time to think, time to understand what he did and why it was wrong, and maybe, time to become the man I always thought he could be. But that's up to him now, not me. I'm done trying to save him from himself. I sat down. Patricia squeezed my hand. The judge banged his gavel. The defendant will report to county jail on May 15th to begin his sentence. Ryan went to prison on a Tuesday. I didn't go to see him off, didn't call, didn't write, didn't visit. Emma sent me updates sometimes, how he was doing, what he was saying. He was angry at first, blamed me for everything. But around month 6, Emma said something changed. He started going to therapy in prison, started talking about what he'd done, started, maybe, understanding. I didn't know if I believed it. People say a lot of things from prison, promises they don't keep once they're free. But I wanted to believe it. The mother in me, that part that never dies, wanted to believe my son could change. I spent that spring rebuilding everything Ryan had tried to destroy. The house got new windows. I hired a contractor to finish the basement properly, sealed the walls, added better lighting, made it into something beautiful instead of just functional. Harold's workshop stayed, but I added shelves for my own things, made it ours instead of just his. I sold the rest of the gold carefully, strategically, invested some of it, donated some to charities Harold would have approved of, veterans organizations, cancer research, kept enough to live comfortably for the rest of my life. Mrs. Chen and I started a garden in my backyard, tomatoes and cucumbers and herbs. We'd sit out there on summer evenings, drinking wine and talking about everything except Ryan. Emma visited every other Sunday. We'd make dinner together, watch movies, talk about her life. She was doing better. Therapy helped, she said. The divorce had been hard on her and Brady, but Jessica was being a good mother now, really trying. "Have you talked to your dad?" I asked her once. "A few times. He writes me letters." She looked at me carefully. "He talks about you sometimes, says he's sorry for what he did." Is he really sorry, or is he just sorry he got caught?
I don't know, Grandma. Maybe both. I nodded. That was probably the truth. People are complicated. We can be genuinely sorry while also being manipulative. We can love and hurt at the same time. Ryan got out of prison in October, 3 months early for good behavior. I found out because Emma told me, not because Ryan contacted me. He'd moved into a halfway house, was working at a warehouse, was trying to rebuild his life. He wants to see you, Emma said, when he's ready, when he thinks you might be ready. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. That's okay, he knows that. November came, a year since Ryan had locked me in the basement, since this nightmare had started. The weather turned cold, and I started decorating for Christmas early, like I always did. The ceramic village went up, the tree, Harold's carved nativity. The house looked like itself again, like home. Thanksgiving Day, I'd invited Mrs. Chen and her family over. Emma and Brady, too. Jessica had them for Christmas this year, so they'd be like me for Thanksgiving. We were going to cook together, make it a real celebration. I was in the kitchen making pie crust when the doorbell rang. Too early for Emma, too early for Mrs. Chen. I opened the door, and there was Ryan. He looked different, thinner, gray hair I hadn't noticed before, older than 50, older than he should have been. Prison ages you that way. Hi, Mom. For a moment, I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. A year of anger and grief and legal battles, and he was just standing there on my porch like it was any other day. Ryan, can we talk? Just for a minute. I'll leave if you want me to. He stopped, started again. I needed to say some things, and I needed to say them to your face. Against every instinct, every lesson I'd learned, I let him in. But I didn't offer him tea, didn't hug him, just stood there in the hallway while he looked at the house he'd tried to steal. It looks good, he said. The house? You fixed it up. Yes. Mom, he took a breath. I've been in therapy, court-ordered at first, but I kept going, even after I didn't have to. And I've been working on understanding why I did what I did, why I became the person who could hurt you like that. And what did you discover? That I was angry, at Dad for dying, at you for surviving him and still having a life when mine was falling apart, at myself for not being able to make it on my own, for always needing help, for being a failure as a husband and father and son. His voice cracked. And instead of dealing with that anger, instead of fixing my life, I decided to take yours, because that was easier than looking at myself. I didn't say anything, waited. I know sorry isn't enough. I know it doesn't fix what I broke or give you back what I took. But I am sorry. I'm so fucking sorry, Mom, for all of it. For stealing from you, for lying to you, for making you feel unsafe in your own home, for teaching my kids that love is conditional and family is transactional, he wiped his eyes, for not being the son you deserved. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to tell him it was okay. We could move past this. We could be family again. That's what mothers do. That's what I'd always done. But Patricia's words came back to me. Love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. Ryan, I appreciate you coming here. I appreciate you apologizing, but I need you to understand something. I forgive you because holding on to anger will poison me, not you. But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean trusting you again. It doesn't mean we go back to how things were.
My voice
I
was
know.
steel. You hurt me worse than anyone ever has. Worse than cancer. Worse than losing your father. Because you chose to. You looked at me, the woman who gave you life and loved you unconditionally, and you chose to hurt me for money, for a house, for things that don't matter. I know I did, and I have to live with that. Yes, you do, and I have to live with knowing my son is capable of that. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave now. You're going to rebuild your life without me. And maybe, in a year or 2 or 5, we can try to have some kind of relationship. But it will never be what it was. Because you killed that. You killed the mother who would have given you anything. What's left is a woman who knows better. He was crying now, really crying. Can I still see Emma and Brady? That's between you and them and Jessica, not me. I'm not going to weaponize your children, but I'm not going to facilitate anything either. You want a relationship with them, you earn it, just like you'll have to earn anything with me. And the money, the restitution I owe you? I thought about Harold's gold, about the $1.4 million that had saved my life. Pay it when you can. I don't need it, but you need to pay it, for yourself, to prove you can make things right. He nodded, stood there like he wanted to say more, wanted to hug me or beg or something, but he just said, "Thank you for seeing me. Goodbye, Ryan." He left. I watched through the window as he got into an old Honda, not the SUV I'd bought him, something cheap and used and humble. Watched him sit there for a minute with his head on the steering wheel, then drive away. I went back to making pie crust, and I realized something. My hands weren't shaking. My heart wasn't breaking. I felt peaceful. I'd loved my son with everything I had, and when that wasn't enough, when he'd chosen greed over love, I'd loved myself enough to fight back. Harold would have been proud. Emma arrived an hour later with Brady. They helped me cook, and we filled the house with laughter and the smell of turkey and pumpkin pie. Mrs. Chen came with her family, and we all squeezed around my dining table, the one Harold had built in 1989, solid oak, big enough for holidays and memories. After dinner, Emma pulled me aside. "Dad was here, wasn't he? I saw his car leaving." "Yes." "How did it go?" "As well as it could. He apologized. I listened. We're not fixed, but maybe we're not completely broken either." She hugged me. "I'm proud of you, Grandma, for fighting back, for not letting him destroy you. I'm proud of you too, sweetheart, for telling the truth even when it was hard." That night, after everyone left, I sat in my living room with the lights off except for the glow of the Christmas tree. The house was quiet, mine, safe, full of memories both painful and beautiful. I thought about calling Ryan, about texting him, about softening what I'd said, but I didn't. Because loving someone doesn't mean sacrificing yourself on the altar of their dysfunction. I'd learned that the hard way. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Mom, thank you for today, for listening. I know I don't deserve it. I'm going to do better. I'm going to be better. Not for you or for a second chance, but because it's right. I love you. I always will. Ryan." I read it 3 times. Then I typed a response. "I hope you do better. For yourself, not for me. That's the only way it will matter." I didn't say I love you back. Maybe someday, but not today. Christmas came. Emma and Brady spent Christmas Eve with me. We made cookies and watched old movies and opened presents. I got Emma a journal, like the one I'd kept, the one they had saved me. "For your thoughts," I told her, "the honest ones." On Christmas morning, Mrs. Chen and I had coffee and watched the snow fall. She asked if I'd heard from Ryan. "He's working," I said, "trying to turn his life around." "Do you think he will?" "I don't know. But that's not my job anymore. My job is to live my life, to be happy, to honor Harold by not letting our son's mistakes destroy what we built." She raised her coffee cup. "To living well, the best revenge." To living well, I agreed. The best freedom. New Year's Eve. A year since this nightmare had started. A year since I'd been 75 and broken and hopeless. Now I was 76. Still here, still standing, still fighting. I stood in my basement, Harold's basement, our basement, and looked at the wall. The hidden cavity was sealed now, properly repaired. But I knew what had been there. Knew what it had given me. "Thank you," I whispered to Harold's memory. "Thank you for preparing me, for loving me enough to give me weapons when I needed them." I like to think he heard me. That somewhere, somehow, he knew I'd survived. Spring came again. Emma got accepted to a good college with a scholarship. Brady made honor roll. Jessica sent me a thank you card for being strong enough for all of us. And Ryan?
Ryan kept trying. Sent child support on time, showed up for Brady's soccer games, went to therapy, paid $50 a month toward the restitution. It would take him decades to pay back $65,000 at that rate, but he was trying. I didn't trust him. Might never trust him again. But I watched from a distance, and I hoped. Because that's what mothers do, even when it hurts. 1 year later, November again. The anniversary of everything falling apart and coming together. Ryan called. Asked if he could come by. Said he had something to give me. What is it? You'll see. Please, Mom. Just a few minutes. I said yes. I don't know why. Maybe because a year of distance had softened things. Maybe because I was tired of being angry. Maybe because he was still my son, and some part of me would always hope he could be better. He arrived on Thanksgiving morning, carried a box carefully like it was precious, set it on my kitchen table. I've been working on this for a year, he said. In therapy, my counselor suggested I do something to make amends, real amends, not just saying sorry. So I did this. I opened the box. Inside were pieces of my ceramic Christmas village, the ones Jessica had smashed. But they'd been repaired, carefully, painstakingly glued back together with gold, kintsugi, the Japanese art of making broken things beautiful. Each piece was lovelier than before. The church with its broken steeple now had a golden seam running through it. The houses, the shops, the tiny people, all repaired, all transformed. I can't give you back what I broke, Ryan said quietly. I can't undo what I did. But I wanted to show you that broken things can still be beautiful. That maybe we can too. I picked up the church, held it up to the light. The gold gleamed. Ryan, I know, it doesn't fix anything. I know I have years of proving myself ahead of me, but I wanted you to know I'm trying, really trying. For the first time in 2 years, I looked at my son and saw something I'd thought was gone forever. Remorse. Real, genuine remorse. Thank you, I said. This means more than you know. He stayed for coffee. Just 20 minutes. We talked about nothing important, the weather, his job, Emma's college plans. Small talk between two people who used to know everything about each other and now know almost nothing. When he left, he paused at the door. Mom, I know I don't have the right to ask this, but do you think you'll ever forgive me? Really forgive me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. I don't know, Ryan. Ask me again in a year. And the year after that? And the year after that? Maybe, one day, the answer will be yes. But you don't get to know when. You just have to keep trying and trust that maybe, eventually, it will be enough. He nodded. I can do that. I can keep trying. After he left, I put the repaired ceramic village on my mantel. The gold seams caught the light, turning something broken into something beautiful. Mrs. Chen came over that afternoon to help with Thanksgiving prep. She saw the village and smiled. Kintsugi, the art of precious scars. You know about this? My husband was Japanese. He used to say that we're all broken. The question is whether we hide the cracks or fill them with gold. I looked at the little ceramic church with its golden steeple. What did you do? I chose gold, she said. Eventually. After years of hiding. But I chose it. That night, the house filled with people again. Emma and Brady, Mrs. Chen's family, Patricia, who'd become a friend, even Jessica, who brought wine and apologies and hope that maybe we could all be some version of family again. We ate turkey and stuffing and the pies I'd made that morning. We told stories, we laughed. The house felt alive in a way it hadn't since Harold died. And when everyone had left and I was alone again, cleaning dishes in the quiet, my phone buzzed. Ryan. One last text. On Thanksgiving, I'm grateful for second chances I don't deserve, and for a mother strong enough to make me earn them. Love you, Mom. I stood there with dish soap on my hands, looking at those words. Love you, Mom. Words he'd said 1,000 times when they meant nothing. Words that maybe, possibly, were starting to mean something again. I didn't respond right away. Finished the dishes, made tea. sat in my living room with the ceramic
Then I
village
typed my
glowing.
response. Just 3 words, but they felt like opening a door I'd thought was locked forever. Love you too. Not I forgive you, not everything's okay now, just acknowledgement that love, real love, survives even betrayal. It gets wounded, scarred, broken into pieces. But sometimes, if you're lucky and someone works hard enough, you can put it back together with gold in the cracks. It won't ever be what it was, but it might be something new, something stronger for having been broken and repaired. I fell asleep that night in my house, bought with Harold's gold, defended with his love, protected by his foresight. Outside, the first snow of winter had started to fall. Christmas lights blinked on houses up and down the street, and somewhere in the city, my son was learning to be better. I didn't know if it would last, didn't know if we'd ever really be family again, but I knew this. I'd fought for myself when no one else would. I'd survived my son's betrayal and found a way to live again, and that was enough. Harold had given me gold to save my life. Now I was using it to build a new one. The basement wall had hidden his treasure, but the real treasure was what it taught me. That you can love someone completely and still protect yourself. That you can be broken and still be whole. That surviving isn't the same as surrendering. I'd spent 76 years being what other people needed. Now, finally, I was becoming what I needed. Strong, free, whole. And that, more than any gold, was priceless.